Hey there viewers, welcome back to another episode of Ray of All Trades. Next on the bench is a Ridgid 8500 starting watts Ridgid generator. Friend dropped it off. He had tried several items before he brought it to me. Lives a little ways away. He said that the fuel had been left in it. Looks like he put a carburetor on it. I think he said he also put a coil in it and appears to be a new starter. Fuel valve, pretty sure this is the old one. Yeah, it looks like it would be the old one. So, and carburetor looks pretty gummed up. He said he tried it with starting fluid and it fires. Let's put the spare parts over to the side. Let's do some preliminary checks here. What's the gas smell like? Gas doesn't smell great, but it also doesn't smell that old either. It's like a mixture of a couple different ones. It's got oil up to the full mark. The fuel filter looks like it has some moisture in it. Kind of tough to focus on, but it looks like it's got a little bit of water mixed in with the gas in there. You can see like condensation forming. It's a pretty good chance that that's going to be our problem. Let's see how the compression feels real quick. Just a little bit of a pull. Looks like there's something wrong with this starter too. Compression's okay. Hopefully it's got a decompression valve on it somewhere that's allowing me to pull it over that easy. Let's check the air filter real quick. Looks like the bottom screw was missing. I mean, it's a brand new carburetor, at least it looks like a brand new carburetor. Choke's working like it's supposed to. Governor not locked up. I don't see any loose, loose bolts or anything like that sticking out. I'm not going to start adjusting anything. Let's just give it a little bit of starting fluid. Looks like, according to the valve anyway, it looks like if you turned it this way it'd be off. So this must be the on position. We'll check that. Let's give it a quick pull. Engine on. It looks like to shut it off you press and hold. Is that because I think this is actually a removable head or something like that. Yeah, I think this is a removable power head, so like you can pull that apart. So you could have a shut-off switch here or a remote shut-off switch here. So nice generator. Just for giggles. Let's put the choke on real fast and just give it a couple of pulls. Yeah, she's not even trying. Normally I would be pulling a spark plug, take a quick peek at it, but based on the complaint, I'm going to go straight to trying some starting fluid. Get that plug out of there real quick and take a peek at it. Well, first thing I noticed is it's got a aftermarket Chinese spark plug in it. It's not wet. I would have anticipated after spraying that in there that if we had no compression that this would still be wet. I did hear it backfire once. You know, maybe the timing's off, sure, but like I said, I don't feel as much compression as I would like to feel, and I'm hoping it's just a decompression valve. Let's check the spark real quick just to see what's happening. I'm not seeing any spark either. Let's put a brand new plug in this thing. Let's see if that makes a difference. He mentioned something about a new coil. So, but before I start taking everything apart, I just wanted to see. No spark there. Tell you what, I believe this wire here to be the kill switch, like if it was low oil, something like that, and that would remove spark. I don't think we have spark. I think that's our biggest problem, which is kind of funny because it backfired once. Let's go ahead and shut off the fuel. Got a couple 12 millimeters, one 10 millimeter here. Is that it? Appears to be it. Starter off. We've obviously pulled it off a few times already. Let's pull the carburetor out. Pull the governor spring and governor arm off. Can't wait till I can get a lift for this sort of stuff. Let's see. Whoa. Well, so there's our problem. That's why we don't have any spark. All right. So yeah, that gap is way too loose. There should be a business card gap on that at the most. Yeah, so that's the wrong coil. Alright, I went ahead and put everything back together. I'm fairly confident that it's got the wrong coil on it, but I wanted to do a compression test before I started ordering any kind of parts for it. So the choke's wide open, throttle's already wide open. I'm going to pull the carburetor back a little bit on this one just to see. Let the air in. The idea is you want maximum airflow to come in. Let's see. my nerves. All right, let's try that again. £50. I've seen them start with 50 pounds before, so I'm not going to condemn the motor. It's probably got a decompression valve on it that's allowing me to pull it over easier. I'd love to see a higher compression, especially before I start buying any parts, but nevertheless it is developing compression. Let's see if I can take a peek down on that cylinder real quick. Yeah, I don't really see any physical damage on this cylinder. So I'd like to get spark on this thing first. I'm not going to really know how this thing's going to behave until I get spark and stuff, because I don't know if the compression is going to be high enough to carry the surge load of that. So as you put a heavy load on it, electric load, the generator has a resistance to it and the motor has to overcome that. It's kind of like running into tall grass with a lawnmower. So it has to be able to overcome that, and it has to have enough power to be able to do so. So let me get some parts ordered, take a guess, take a gamble, and I'll be back with you guys as soon as they come in. Okay, it's been weeks. I don't even know how long. But I had to order an OEM Yamaha part, 120 bucks, something like that. It was kind of expensive. Part number YWG85640-00, and it definitely looks a little bit different the way that it's designed. I want to get it off of there. I'm going to take a couple measurements to see what the differences are. Pull off my ground lead. Looks like this one I'm going to have to put this boot on there too. Oh yeah, it's definitely different. I just wanted to look before I unsealed it. Okay, what I'll try to do is take a measurement, just a rough guess. I'm going to try to go from the center there to the center of that hole. Okay. It's just a rough guess. Alright, so if I went basically straight with it, from the bottom there to the center of that hole is about there. Lock it in. I don't know, it's close, right? If I did the exact same thing on this one, you can see that the center of the hole would have been up there. So this, it's possible that if I had ground out like a giant piece of this and used this coil, it may have worked, but I'm doing this for somebody else. I'd rather it be done the right way. Without question, that coil is definitely different. To save a few dollars, I ordered it basically slow boat to get here. Looks like on the back it says BM3773201103. Looks like I'd have to do something like that. So the routing is going to be like that. That means that this boot, let's see, pull that down, unscrew this off of here. Just take a quick peek, make sure it's okay. All right, let's put that this shoulder on there first. Shoulder, strain relief, cup, water, I don't know, whatever it's called. Just going to push this in, so I'm going to thread it while I'm squeezing these two together. And it should thread right in. What you're doing is making that metal connection in the middle there touch that metal wire that's right there. What you're feeling for is a spot when it basically stops turning at what you felt at the beginning. If you keep cranking on it, all you're going to do is strip it out. So it should thread on, I don't know, 1/4 inch, something like that. That's how you know you got a decent connection. And if you don't have a decent connection, it won't fire. Or it'll probably intermittent fire. So let's go ahead and put the kill wire on. That one is way too loose. So let's compress this down, or go ahead and pull a brand new kill wire in that came with it. Might as well, since we bought it. Let's see, disconnects from back here. Feed that end back through this hole. It's kind of crazy. The instructions don't tell you that there's a couple of different versions of this exact motor. And so I can see how the owner of this ended up getting confused with the coils and stuff that he ordered. Because when you look it up, it just says, oh yeah, if it's this model, it's all this. Well, that's not quite true on this motor. As I can tell you, that coil is definitely different. There's not a whole lot of play for a gap adjustment, but nevertheless, we're still going to attempt to gap this one. Yeah. Yep, she's actually touching now. So let's get a business card and get that gapped. Let's turn it so it doesn't have a magnetic connection. We'll slide this in. Then I'm going to hold up on this bottom side so that it doesn't turn with the flywheel, and then turn the flywheel till the magnet is in line, and then let the coil pull tight. So I've got a business card between that metal and that flywheel. You can see I choked way up on it so that I don't over tighten it. If I had to guess, it's probably somewhere around like 8 foot-pounds or something like that. He had a brand new plug with it. We're not going to put that in just yet because I want to see if I'm fairly confident, but I want to see if we have spark once we get the shroud back on. I'm sorry. This coil needs to come up through this groove before we get too far. Right. Now, let's get this shroud back on. While we're over here, let's go ahead and get the carburetor put back on. The governor rod goes into the white groove there, and then the return spring or the vibration spring, anyway, it's what stops it from surging, goes in that smaller hole. Make sure your gasket is good shape. Slide that on. I'm going to slide the breather on. The air filter, the breather popped out of here. That's what made me start thinking about that. So the air filter housing back on here. Looks like I forgot one gasket. So let's put that gasket on. This gasket right here is torn. I bet you when he was trying to install it the first time, because the holes that go across the threads aren't opened up really well. But this gasket on this side is not as critical as the other side. This one is just stopping dirt from entering the carburetor between this gap. This one back here is critical because this is after the metered air from the venturi from the carburetor. So the fuel and air mixture that's being metered halfway through this carburetor is exactly what the motor wants to see. Any air introduced after that is going to cause a lean condition. So not enough fuel, too much air. It's going to cause a lean condition. So that's why this gasket here is not that important. This one back here is. I say not important. It's somewhat important because it's trying to keep dirt out of the motor. But what I'm saying is it's not as critical as the one behind it. So let's put that on. Let's see what else. Y'all, it has literally been weeks since I took this thing apart. Looks like 12 millimeters. Looks like I'm missing a bolt down here. Screw would be down there. How about this one? No, but that's a very short screw. This one was somewhat long. I bet you I put the wrong one in. Let me compare them real fast. Yep, there is a difference. Let's see if this is the right size. Yep, that feels much better. Not sure how I got them confused. I wonder if when I was cleaning up my mess, I just grabbed the wrong one. Alright, so those two screws hold the carburetor against the intake. I don't need to put the cover just on yet. So this breather tube goes on here. We're going to leave this out until I can verify spark. And so something else I did when I was messing with the compression was I went ahead and rebuilt the original starter. It basically just needed a rope and some cleaning. So I put that together. You can see the dogs pop out when they need to. Retracts like it's supposed to. This one here appears to be some sort of an aftermarket. Anyway, the inside is different, right? What's happening is, and I'm not sure where it's hitting, but the rope is not retracting properly. So now the kicker is, oddly enough, I didn't happen to have an extra handle, so I couldn't finish the build at the time, and I had reassembled a lot of the stuff so that I didn't misplace anything. So what we're going to do is steal the steal the handle off of this rope and put it on the other rope. And then if the owner wants to use it again or put it back together or swap it or whatever, he more than likely he can, I know a lot of people get upset that somebody worked on it before them, because they're, what did they do, blah, blah, blah. And some of them are just plain against somebody working on their own stuff because they're thinking that if they worked on it, that they'll just get, the more people fix their own stuff, the less money that they can make. I'm not that guy. I say, you want to try to work on your own stuff, go for it. I kind of like it. This is a hobby for me, not my primary source of income, and I'm talking and losing focus on what the heck I'm doing. Might need one more revolution. Feels a little bit weak. Let me grab a pick. What we're gonna do is we're gonna pull that rope out right there. I don't think I can do it without a pick. Let's see, can I do it without having to go back to my toolbox? Maybe. Alright, so basically just pull that rope through like that. I'm holding it with my thumb when I do that. So I've just pulled that rope into that little groove right there. Right? And all I'm going to do is spin it one more time around. So basically I just got one more revolution of tension to it, and then just pull that rope right back through and just gives it a little bit more snapback. So let's put the original recoil starter back on. Feels a lot better. Let's see if we can check this thing for spark. I'm gonna do my best to pull it and then see if I can. All right, I can't see where you guys are, so let me try it for me. All right, hopefully you all saw spark, because when I flipped it over, I had a really nice spark so that I could see. I just couldn't see what you guys were seeing because I was pulling from the wrong side. There's really nothing there for that to get a hold of. This box is just destroyed. We are going to put that in there though because it holds the foam away from the opening just a little bit. It could definitely use a new air filter though. We still don't even know if this thing makes power. We already got $130 or whatever in it, and hasn't even made power yet. Heck, it hasn't even started yet. Alright, let's go ahead and turn the fuel on and assume that the new carburetor that they put in and everything was good to go. Choke appears to be that way. I'm sorry, that's run. That appears to be choke. The kill switch is spring loaded, so I don't have to turn anything on. Let's see if it fires. Move it that way. Sorry, yeah, the mail truck delivery. Let's try to put this thing back on choke. Fuel's on. All right, let's go back to giving it some ether. Tried it just as is. I don't know the condition of this fuel that's in this thing. I don't know the condition of the carburetor that was put on it. And so the first thing I noticed was it didn't have spark. Yep, so that is a choke on, that's choke off. Governor rod's free. I could pull off the screws down here just to see if any fuel drains from it, but let's just see if it fires. There we go. So we know we got a fuel delivery issue because it started immediately and then immediately shut off, so that burned up whatever I sprayed in with the can. So we've just proven we've got good compression, spark, timing, all that has just been proven. So now we want to check on our fuel delivery problem. The way this works, this fuel shutoff valve over here should allow, when you turn this on, there should be enough gravity up here in the fuel to allow that to fill up this bowl. So by all rights, if this is working properly and I pull off this bleed screw, fuel should come out of it. If it doesn't, then we're going to take off the one underneath and pull the whole bowl off. Alright, we've got fuel. I'm just looking at the quality of it. It doesn't look that great. It's very milky. Let me see if I can capture some of this so you guys can see it. Milky as in it's got water in it. So I'm kind of curious if you change the carburetor but never change the fuel. Let me start off by saying that this is not a perfectly clean jar that I'm pouring this into. From what I was just seeing, I don't think it's going to matter. So while it's draining, let's see if the shutoff valve does anything. Alright, so that's the off position and it did stop. Let's turn the valve back on. Let's see if I can show you this. I don't like the amount of flow I'm getting out of this thing. I mean, by all rights, that should keep up, but it is kind of slow. Let's vent the cap. Pull the cap off. Alright, so it's not pulling a vacuum. I mean, it should run off of that, but it is a little bit on the slow side. It should have started on that. If I had a problem, it should have showed as a, runs for a little while and then chokes out. But again, I don't think that that's the issue. Oop, looks like I got another visitor. Let me cut you guys off for a second. Yeah, I mean, I put the bolt back in for a second and it filled up and then it drained out really quick when I did that. But she definitely doesn't want to be, it definitely doesn't drain as fast as I would want it to. And since we're this far into it, it would probably run. I was told it's a new carb. It looks like we've already pushed a bunch of cloudy fuel through it. Let's go ahead and take it off and take a look inside it. Okay, this ought to be a 14 millimeter. It is. It wasn't exceptionally tight, and it wasn't leaking. That's the good thing. For a brand new carburetor, it's got a lot of junk in it. Yep, look at all that gel. So brand new carburetor, but they never cleaned the fuel out. So let's go ahead and, I think since it's not all crusty and everything, it probably doesn't need an ultrasonic, but it definitely needs to have some carb cleaner or brake cleaner run through it. Let's get some brushes. Get my pipe cleaners. clean this jet out. This is your main jet. I'm kind of curious why they double gasketed it here. Usually double gasket's not a great idea. The reason they're not a great idea is because they're known for causing leaks. Well, this one didn't have a leak. Float pulled out. Clean off the needle. It doesn't have a whole lot because, like I said, it's fairly new. Let's clean out the seat. All right, we have an emulsion tube right there in the middle. We'll try to shove rather than trying to pull out that brass fitting, let's go ahead and shove a pipe cleaner through it. Looks fairly clean. Let's clean off this body a little bit. I still see some gel floating around in there. Gonna let some more of that fuel drain out. Get our needle and seat put back in. A little bit of persuasion there. Let's put our carburetor back on. So let's see, or our bowl. So if it's sitting that way, we want to be able to access the drain, so we want it to be turned that direction. Well, it's just like that. Okay. Let's put our main jet back in, screw it into the, I'm going to pull off that second gasket. I mean, unless they did it for a I can't pull it off without destroying that O-ring that's on there, it looks like. Or can I? Alright, well, it looks like they built it that way, so the shop that built it in China, whoops, overflowing a little bit. Y'all probably saw that. They were probably yelling at me. The little shop in China that built it decided it needed 2 gaskets for some reason. Okay. Said little shop. I don't even know who made it. I'm fairly confident it was made in China, though, as most parts are. Those 2 are on. Carburetor's, I'm not going to say rebuilt, but it's cleaned. Let's see if I can get this into that bucket and clean up my mess. Tell you something that's weird about this gas. It's not gas, it's water. Okay. I thought it looked funny on the ground. It puddled up like water. It didn't run like gasoline. Gasoline's a lot thinner. It doesn't quite look the same landing on the concrete. So I'm gonna say that's probably our biggest problem. It probably had water. They went to buy a carburetor, put it in. The carburetor came with a new coil. Was the wrong coil. And you see how the snowball effect is occurring? All that fuel has to come out of there. I say fuel in air quotes. Y'all just didn't see me. I'll bring you back as soon as I get all this pumped out or removed or whatever I gotta do. So I used one of these Harbor Freight transfer pump specials. I think it's like 10 bucks. I don't think they're made for gasoline. They're made for oil and stuff. So I don't know if that was its demise, but I can tell you that it worked for the job I needed it for. This fuel filter, guaranteed, because I pulled a lot of junk out of there and I saw it come out when I was siphoning the fuel out. So I know, how about that? Broke the fuel filter right off. Look at there. That fuel filter was stopping all that fuel from coming out. At least I think it was a fuel filter. I never took this apart to see. It could have been this. But look at what's coming out of there. You guys see that? That was not gonna burn. I'm hoping that I got a pin. Yeah, it didn't work too well. Yep, wasn't prepared for that. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and blow some air through that. What a mess. I didn't have any of my shut-off clamps with me. Ill prepared for the task at hand. Let's go ahead and put what the normal screens are. This hose, normally I would have changed this hose, but this hose doesn't really feel that old. Or it was a decent quality hose when it was put on. So get that one on, so we can get this piece out. If we can't, we'll just cut the hose. Let's join those two together. And that goes something like that. I'll clean up my mess. Back to where we were when we started this morning. Good gasket there. The governor rod goes in through that white plastic piece, fishes on. Put the spring, the vibration spring on. I don't want to call it a vibration spring. It's made for keeping the governor from bouncing all over the place and making the motor sound like it's hunting. I'm trying to remember the name of it. If anybody remembers the name, just punch it down there in the comments for me, please, would you? Hose put back on while we can reach it. Choke is in that position, opens that position. Remember we were asking earlier, or at least I was. gasket, air box, the screws on the carburetor are tight. I've already checked those. Tight, tight, tight. Governor linkage is clean, moving freely. The fuel is in the on position, but there's none in it. We've cleaned out the fuel. I'm not going to say the best we can, but all the old fuel's out of it. The best we can would have been that I didn't lose a single drop, and I was able to capture it and see what it was made out of. That would have been the best. You can kind of see inside the filter what we were dealing with. That wasn't visible when we were looking at it. It didn't start coming out until after we got to the bottom of the tank, which means that they would have experienced it at the absolute worst time, probably when they needed it. Feeling pretty good about this. Not this. This is a half melted box that's keeping that tray from sealing properly. Now I'm feeling pretty good that we found the problem and have fixed it. So I'm fairly certain that the motor's going to run. And my next problem is going to be if it produces power. This is a lot of headache for a fuel that was left in a generator. Let's get some fuel in it. All right, let's see. Looks like choke full on is that way. Fuel's on. Half choke. There she is, the old Ridgid 8500. Season of bad fuel kind of did it in. So it was a domino effect, somebody trying to fix it, and I applaud anybody wanting to fix their own stuff. This one just didn't happen to go in the favor of the person trying to fix it. Luckily we got it back together. Let's get it back in their hands so that the next power outage, their refrigerator and freezer stay running. And you guys got something out of the video, really appreciate a thumbs up or a subscribe. Helps the channel tremendously. Catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for hanging out.